Hey, beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your crystals in the urine sediment. Your crystals in the urine sediment. Okay, I wish we can sell them. I wish they have a monetary value. Your crystals in the urine. Anyway, your crystals in the urine, they are formed by the precipitation of urinary salts when there is an alteration in the multiple factors that affect the solubilities of these solutes or urinary salts. Okay, that is for your crystals. And again, I wish that we can sell them. I wish they have a monetary value. Your urinary crystals or your crystals, again, they are formed by the precipitation of urinary solutes like organic compounds, salts, and medications. And of course, you have factors that affects the formation of these urinary crystals, and they include temperature, concentration of the solute, and pH accordingly. Please note that uh, precipitates of the solutes, okay, precipitates of the solutes can appear in the urine in the form of true crystals or in the form of amorphous materials. Again, precipitates of the solutes, or yes, precipitates of the solutes can appear in the urine in the form of true crystals or in the form of amorphous materials. And please note that most crystal, they form in cold temperatures. They form in cold temperatures. Again, please note that most of the crystal formation takes place in refrigerated samples. And though also it takes place in those samples that are allowed to sit at room temperature for several hours. So you have such decrease in temperature or cold temperature will favor the formation of your crystals, as well as prolonged standing. Prolonged standing will favor the formation of your crystals accordingly. And please note that again, increased solute concentration is uh, responsible. It is responsible for crystal formation accordingly. It is typically, again, increased solute concentration is typically responsible for crystal formation because accordingly, as the concentration of the urinary solutes increases, again, as the concentration of the urinary solutes increases, this ability of these solutes to remain in the solution will decrease, which will result into formation of crystals, which will result into the formation of your crystals accordingly. Okay? And yes, the presence of crystals in a freshly voided urine is associated most frequently with concentrated samples. Again, increase in concentrations of urinary solutes will favor the formation of crystal formation. And the presence of crystals in freshly voided urine is associated most frequently with urine samples that have high specific gravity or urine samples that are concentrated. And please note your pH. Okay, pH, this is accordingly the most valuable in identification of crystals. The pH is urine pH, or the pH of the sample is the most valuable in identification of your crystals. In general, again, in general, organic and iatrogenic compounds, okay, organic and iatrogenic compounds, they crystallize more easily in an acidic pH. Okay, organic and iatrogenic compounds, they crystallize more easily in acidic pH, whereas inorganic salts, they are less soluble in neutral and alkaline solutions. They are inorganic salts, they are less soluble in alkaline solutions accordingly. And yes, an exception for this one, okay, an exception for this, your calcium oxalate, this one will precipitate in both acidic and neutral urine. Again, uh, an exception for that, your calcium oxalate precipitates in both alkaline and neutral urine. Okay, yeah, please note that when you say iatrogenic, it is medically induced. It is medically induced. Medically induced, or it is caused, or this is a complication, or this is an illness that is caused by uh, a medical treatment or a diagnostic procedure. Okay, when you say iatrogenic, again, it is medically induced. It is caused by medical treatment or a diagnostic procedure. Crystals. Please note that the crystal formation, similar to cast formation, it is enhanced by slow urine flow through the renal tubules. And yes, please add pH. But then earlier, okay, what we call this, we mentioned about pH. Please note that slow urine flow or reduction in the flow of urine will allow a maximum time or will allow time for a maximum concentration of solutes in the ultrafiltrate. Again, the reduction in the flow of the urine will give time for a maximum concentration of solute in the filtrate. And we said earlier that an increased concentrations in the solute, increased solute concentrations in the ultrafiltrate will favor the formation of your urine crystals or your crystals. Anyway, your crystals, they are reported as rare, few, moderate, or many per high power field. Okay, semi-quantitative per high power field. And then your abnormal crystals like your cysteine, your leucine, bilirubin, and the rest of your abnormal crystals, they may be averaged and reported per low power field. You average, you count in 10 fields, you get the average, and then you report in numerical range per low power field accordingly. And yes, please note that the knowledge in urine pH, or yes, the knowledge in urine pH, that is a valuable aid in identification of crystals. Because again, okay, it is the pH that determines which chemical will precipitate. And yes, we will take a look later on at the what you call this at the crystals that are seen in acidic urine and that are seen in crystals that are seen in alkaline urine. As for the clinical significance of your crystals, okay, they are utilized to they are correlated. Okay, they are correlated to liver disease. They are correlated for inborn error of metabolism, and they are correlated to renal damage that are caused by crystallization of iatrogenic compounds accordingly. Let's take a look at your normal crystals in acidic urine. You have here your amorphous urates. Your amorphous urates, they are brick dust or yellow-brown granules, and then they are frequently encountered as pink sediment. Please note that amorphous urates, they will precipitate in urine upon standing in of a uh, of a slightly acidic pH. Okay, amorphous urates, they will precipitate when it when it stands upon standing in a concentrated urine of a slightly acidic pH. And please note that when your amorphous urates are seen in large quantities, the urine sediment may appear pink, orange to reddish brown on macroscopic examination. Again, when large quantities of amorphous urates are present, the urine sediment may appear pink, orange, or reddish brown on macroscopic examination. Because again, your amorphous urates, they have high affinity to your urearythrin. Okay, they have high affinity to your uroerythrin. And your uroerythrin is a normal pigment that occurs in the urine. Okay, it is a normal pigment that occurs in the urine. Okay, of course, the pink pigment is the pink coloration that is imparted by increased amount of amorphous urate is due to your uroerythrin. Anyway, your what you call this again your uh, amorphous urates, they are brick dust or yellow brown granules, and what you call this, they can form clumps and they can adhere to fibers and mucus threads accordingly. Please note that amorphous urates will convert to uric acid crystals with acidification with acetic acid. Okay, they are converted to uric acid crystals with acidification with concentrated, with acetic acid. And yes, they are dissolved with heat at 60 degrees Celsius. Also, they are dissolved by dilute to alkali. Okay, they are dissolved by dilute to alkali. Anyway, that is for your amorphous urates. As for the clinical significance, please note it is a normal urine crystal that is seen in acidic urine. And then you have your uric acid crystals. Please note that your uric acid crystals, they occur at a low pH of less than 5.5, or some references they say it's less than 5.7. Okay, less than 5.7. But then in case that the pH of the urine sample is greater than 6, or yes, greater than 6, but there is a high amount of uric acid, then it may produce, it may form uric acid crystals. Anyway, again, your uric acid crystals are seen in variety of shapes. They have rhombic or four-sided flat plates, prisms, oval forms with pointed ends or lemon shape, and wedges or rosettes and irregular plates accordingly. That is for your uric acid. Again, this uric acid crystal, they assume the greatest variety of shape. They assume the greatest variety of shape. Okay, again, they can be rhombic, they can be rosette, wedge shape, diamond, cubic, and whatever accordingly. And please note that most of your uric acid crystals are colored, typically yellow or reddish brown. But mostly, based on experience, I've seen most of uric acid crystals, they are colored yellow. They are colored yellow, and they are rarely colorless. Okay, they are rarely colorless, hexagonal. Okay, the hexagonal shapes are rare also, which resembles cystine crystal. Again, your uric acid, you have a hexagonal. They can assume a hexagonal shape, but then they are rare. And this hexagonal shape of uric acid crystal may resemble cystine. But then, of course, uh, your what you call this, your cystine crystals. We will take a look of that later on as we move through. Anyway, your uric acid crystals, they show birefringence. They show birefringence with polarized light. Okay, they show birefringence with polarized light. Anyway, as for clinical correlation, please note that large numbers of uric acid crystals and urates may reflect increased nucleoprotein turnover. Again, large numbers of uric acid crystals and urates may reflect increased nucleoprotein turnover, and that is especially seen in chemotherapy of leukemia and lymphoma. Okay, seen in chemotherapy of leukemia and lymphoma. Aside from that, increased quantities of uric acid crystals may be seen in Lesch-Nyhan syndrome and may provide circumstantial evidence of the nature of small stones lodged in the ureters accordingly. And yes, please note that uric acid crystals may also indicate the urate nephropathy of gout. It may indicate the urate nephropathy of gout accordingly. This image here shows a polarized, polarized uric acid crystal. Anyway, you have here your what you call this uric acid crystals, your uric acid crystals accordingly. They are uric acid crystals. And of course, these ones, they are what they call this, your brick dusts. Okay, your amorphous uh, urates accordingly, amorphous urates. Of course, this one, uric acid crystals. Okay, this one, your uric acid crystal. This is a uric acid crystal in barrel form. Okay, in barrel form, uric acid crystal still. Anyway, your calcium oxalate. Your calcium oxalate is has two forms accordingly. You have your dihydrate and monohydrate forms accordingly. Please note that your dihydrate, this is the most common form. Your dihydrate is the most common form. And yes, the dihydrate has two pyramids joined at their bases accordingly. These are actually dihydrates. Anyway, it is otherwise known as wedellite, and it has a weak birefringence. It has a weak birefringence. While your monohydrate crystal, it is oval or dumbbell shape, and it is otherwise called as webellite, and it has a strong birefringence. It has a strong birefringence. And yes, your calcium oxalate dihydrate, they may appear also in they may appear in urine at pH 6 or in neutral urine. They can be seen in neutral urine. And again, classic form is that of a small colorless octahedron that resemble an envelope. Okay, are two pyramids joined at their bases somewhat. Okay, as for the solubility, please note that calcium oxalate crystals, they are soluble in dilute hydrochloric acid, and they are insoluble in dilute acetic acid. Again, your calcium oxalate crystals, they are soluble in dilute hydrochloric acid, and they are insoluble in dilute acetic acid accordingly. Okay. Again, your monohydrate crystals, they are what you call this? They have longer forms. Accordingly, they have longer forms. Accordingly, and yes, as for the clinical significance, please note, as for the clinical significance, your calcium oxalate crystals is associated with foods that are high in oxalic acid, such as tomatoes, asparagus, ascorbic acid, because oxalic acid is the end product of ascorbic acid metabolism. Also, again, oxalic acid, that is the end product of your ascorbic acid metabolism. If you try to remember when we talk about your ascorbic acid, again, oxalates, that is a product. They are product of ascorbic. 50% of your oxalates, they come from 50% of your oxalates in the urine, they come from metabolism of ascorbic acid or metabolism of vitamin C accordingly. Anyway, your what you call this your oxalate crystals in large numbers may reflect severe chronic renal disease or ethylene glycol or methoxyflurane toxicity. Okay, again, oxalate crystals in large numbers may reflect severe chronic renal disease or ethylene glycol or methoxyflurane toxicity. Anyway, let's take a look at your monohydrate crystals. The monohydrate form is seen most frequently in what they call this, seen most frequently in ethylene glycol poisoning. And the individuals who have high frequency of having monohydrate crystals are children. Okay, your children and pets, because your antifreeze, okay, your antifreeze, this is a antifreeze, or your ethylene glycol poisoning, I mean, your ethylene glycol is a what you call this component of your antifreeze. Okay, it is a component of your antifreeze, and your antifreeze, they the test the taste, sorry, the taste of your antifreeze is sweet. Okay, it is sweet. So if this antifreeze is left in the garage uncovered, if the container is left uncovered, and yes, left uncovered, your children and pets will get attracted to the sweet taste, and they will somewhat ingest it. Okay, they will somewhat ingest it. That is why children and pets, they are most frequently, they are the individuals most frequently associated with ethylene, with monohydrate calcium oxalate crystals. Because in ethylene glycol poisoning, massive amounts again of monohydrate calcium oxalate crystals are frequently produced in such cases. Aside from that, oxaluria has come into prominence as a reflection of the increased absorption of oxalates from the food following small bowel disease and resection. And this one is notably for Crohn disease. Okay, Crohn disease, okay, will somewhat produce oxaluria. And yes, will somewhat produce calcium oxalate crystals. And please note that clumps of calcium oxalate crystals in the urine may be related to formation of renal calculi, because again, majority of the renal calculi are composed of calcium oxalate. Okay, finding of calcium oxalate crystals in the fresh urine may be related to formation of renal calculi, because again, majority of your renal calculi are composed of calcium oxalate. And yes, again, oxaluria may also be present in individuals, as what we said when we talk about your what you call this, when we talk about your ascorbic acid. Okay, in the chemical examination, your oxaluria may be present in individuals who are genetically susceptible, okay, following doses of ascorbic acid. Again, oxaluria may be present in individuals who are genetically susceptible following large doses of ascorbic acid. Then you have your monosodium urate crystals. Please note that these are uncommon crystals still. These are uncommon crystals. Okay, your monosodium urate crystals, they are colorless to light yellow, and they are slender, pencil-like prisms with blunt ends. Again, slender, pencil-like prisms with blunt ends. And yes, your monosodium urate, they are soluble with alkali. They are soluble with the alkali. Your calcium sulfate, it has a cigarette butt in appearance. Calcium sulfate has a cigarette butt in appearance, and it is soluble in acetic acid. It is soluble in acetic acid. Your hippuric acid crystal, they have a yellow brown, or they can be colorless elongated prisms. They are yellow brown, or they can be colorless elongated prisms, and they are soluble in ether and water. They are soluble in ether and water accordingly. And yes, your acid urates. Your acid urates, they are large granules and they may have spicules accordingly. Okay, acid urates and sodium urates are rarely encountered also. Okay, they are rarely encountered. And they are seen in conjunction with amorphous urates. And same, they have a little clinical significance. Again, acid urates and sodium urates, they are rarely encountered and they have what they call this little clinical significance. And they are seen in conjunction with amorphous urates. Accordingly, your acid urates again, they appear as larger granules and may have spicules that are similar to ammonium biurate crystals seen in alkaline urine. But then, of course, your acid urates, they are seen in acid urine. Okay, they are seen in acid urine. Okay, again, yellow-brown. Okay, they are converted to uric acid with the addition of glacial acetic acid. Accordingly, they are converted to acetic acid, I mean to uric acid with addition of glacial acetic acid. And accordingly, it is common in old urine. Anyway, your sodium urate crystals, they are needle-shaped and are seen in synovial fluid during episodes of gout. Okay, needle-shaped or slender prisms that are arranged in fan or sheath-like structure. Okay, again, they are slender prisms or what they call is needle-shaped that are arranged in fan or sheaf-like structure. Okay, and yes, they are seen in synovial fluid following episodes of gout, but then they may also appear in the urine sample. Anyway, your normal crystals in alkaline urine. In alkaline urine, of course, you have your amorphous phosphates. Your amorphous phosphates, your phosphates, accordingly, your phosphates, they represent the majority of crystals seen in alkaline urine. And your phosphates include amorphous phosphates, triple phosphate, and calcium phosphate accordingly. Your amorphous phosphates, similar to your amorphous urates, they have granular appearance. They have granular appearance in the microscope. By the way, again, when you say amorphous, okay, when you say amorphous, they do not have a definite shape. When you say amorphous, they do not have a definite shape accordingly. Anyway, okay, they are granular. They are granular white precipitates, and they can occur in clumps or masses. And large amounts of amorphous phosphates may precipitate out upon prolonged standing at room temperature or in the refrigerator. Okay, or in the refrigerator accordingly. Okay. Again, your what do you call this? Your amorphous phosphates, they are soluble in dilute acetic acid. Accordingly, your amorphous phosphates are soluble in dilute acetic acid. But then again, please note that what do you call this? Prolonged standing and refrigeration will favor the formation or the precipitation of these amorphous phosphates. Anyway, these are actually amorphous phosphates. And then you have your ammonium biurate. They are similar to typical urate crystals. Okay, they are similar to typical urate crystals, but then they are seen in alkaline urine kasi they are seen in alkaline urine. Your ammonium biurate crystals, they have a yellow brown color. They have a yellow brown color and they appear as spheres with radial or concentric striations and irregular projections or thorns accordingly. Okay? Irregular projections or thorns giving you a thorny apple appearance, giving you a thorny apple appearance. And please note that your ammonium biurate, okay, dissolves with the heat at 60 degrees Celsius and with acetic acid. Okay, they are dissolved in heat, 60 degrees Celsius, and they are dissolved in acetic acid, or they are soluble in acetic acid accordingly. Okay, they reappear as typical uric acid crystals after about 20 minutes. Okay, if you employed heat and acetic acid, and then they will reappear as typical uric acid crystals after about 20 minutes accordingly. And yes, your your ammonium biurate crystals are almost always encountered in old samples, okay, or in these old specimens, and is associated with the presence of ammonia produced by urea splitting bacteria. Okay, your ammonium biurate is associated with ammonia produced by urea splitting bacteria. Okay, this one actually is an illustration of your thorny apples, okay, or your ammonium biurate. Mm. Okay, ammonium biurate. Does it look like an apple? Somewhat, it looks like an apple that is cut into half. No, it looks like an apple that is cut into half. Okay. Again, your ammonium biurate, they are dark yellow-brown in color. They are spheres with spicules or striations, and this is the only urate that is found in an alkaline urine. This is the only urate, your ammonium biurate is the only urate that is found in alkaline urine accordingly. Anyway, your calcium phosphate. Okay, calcium phosphate, they have forms. You have your hydroxyapatite and your brucite. Your hydroxyapatite is is your basic calcium phosphate. Okay, is your basic calcium phosphate. Okay, and please note you have your dibasic. They have thin prisms that is often in rosette or stellar forms, and this is the common one. And the monobasic, okay, the monobasic, that is, they have irregular or granular sheets or plates accordingly. And please note that your calcium phosphate is a common constituent of renal calculi. Okay, calcium phosphate is a common constituent of renal calculi. Okay, the rosette form of your calcium phosphate may be confused with sulfonamide crystals when the urine pH is in the neutral range. Again, the rosette form of your calcium phosphate may be confused with sulfonamide crystals when the urine pH is in the neutral form. And please note that your calcium phosphate crystals dissolves in dilute acetic acid and it is insoluble in heat. Okay? Your calcium phosphate is soluble in dilute acetic acid, while your sulfonamide crystal is not soluble. Your sulfonamide crystal is not soluble in dilute acetic acid. That is one key differentiating factor for both of, for the two, for your calcium phosphate and for your sulfonamide crystals. Please note that your calcium phosphate, they do not have they have no clinical significance. But then again, as what we said, they are common constituent of the renal calculi. Calcium phosphate is a common constituent of the renal calculi. Okay, and then you have your dicalcium phosphate again. They have what you call this. They are seen in neutral or slightly acidic urine and are long, and they have three-sided prisms with pointed ends. And then you have your triple phosphate, your triple phosphate or your ammonium magnesium phosphate. Okay, this is one of the most easily identified urine crystals together with your calcium oxalate, di ba? Together with your calcium oxalate dihydrate, no? Okay, your triple phosphate or your ammonium magnesium phosphate. Okay, it also shows variation in size. Okay, it also shows variation in size, but it is easier, okay, to identify. Okay, they have colorless. Okay, they are colorless and they are 3 to 6 sided prisms with oblique ends that are referred to as coffin lids. Okay, somewhat parang coffin lids ka na. Okay, again, they are 3 to 6 sided prisms with oblique ends that are referred to as coffin lids, and they may form colorless sheets, flakes, or fine sheaves accordingly. And please note that they disintegrate. I mean, as they disintegrate, this triple phosphate may develop a feathery appearance. They may develop a feathery appearance as they disintegrate. Please note, it has no clinical significance. However, your triple phosphate is seen more often in highly alkaline urine that is associated with the presence of urea splitting bacteria. Okay, associated with urea splitting bacteria. Accordingly. Aside from that, urine stasis in the kidney and bladder. Okay, urine stasis in the kidney and bladder will also promote the formation of triple phosphate still. Okay, your triple phosphate, when what do you call this, when ammonia is added, the triple phosphate, when ammonia is added, it will form a fern leaf. Okay, it will form a fern leaf appearance. And yes, this one is dilute. I mean, is this one is soluble in dilute acetic acid. Your triple phosphate is soluble in dilute acetic acid accordingly. And yes, please note that your triple phosphate or your ammonium magnesium phosphate, this is otherwise referred to as your staghorn calculi. Okay, it forms your staghorn calculi accordingly. Triple phosphate or your ammonium magnesium phosphate forms accordingly your staghorn calculi. And then you have your calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate, still this is uncommon. Okay, this is uncommon, and they are small and colorless. They have they can be dumbbell or spherical shapes, and they may form pairs, fours, or clumps. And they are distinguished from other crystals or amorphous materials by the production of carbon dioxide in the presence of acetic acid. Okay, and so when acetic acid is added, it will produce carbon dioxide, or effervescence will, is seen, okay, after the addition of acetic acid. That is for your calcium carbonate. Okay, this one is a, what they call this, a triple phosphate. This is a triple phosphate. Okay, these are calcium carbonate crystals. Calcium carbonate crystal. And yes, you have your abnormal crystals in acidic urine. Please note that most of your abnormal crystals, they have characteristic shapes. Okay, they have characteristic shapes. But then please note that the identity of these crystals can be confirmed by the patient information, including disorders and medications that were administered to the patient. Okay, what do you call this? Iatrogenic crystals can be caused by a variety of compounds, particularly when they are administered in high concentrations. And yes, they may be of clinical significance again. Iatrogenic compounds or iatrogenic crystals may be of clinical significance when they precipitate in the renal tubules. Because when they precipitate in the renal tubules, they have the ability to block, okay? They have the ability to obstruct or to block the passage of the ultrafiltrate accordingly, causing extreme urine stasis. Anyway, your cystine crystals, they are colorless and hexagonal in shape. They are colorless and hexagonal in shape, and they are refractile. Okay, they are refractile. Of course, they are your cysteine is seen in acidic urine. It is seen in acidic urine. And yes, they are soluble in water at pH less than 2 or greater than 8. Okay, they are soluble at pH of less than 2 or greater than 8. And please note that these ones may be confused with uh, hexagonal forms of uric acid crystals. Your hexagonal forms of your uric acid crystals, they are rare, but they occur and they can be confused with cysteine crystals. But then please note, your uric acid crystal, it is insoluble in dilute dilute hydrochloric acid. Okay, your what you call this uric acid crystal is what you call this your uric acid crystal is insoluble in dilute hydrochloric acid. Okay, while your cysteine is soluble in dilute hydrochloric acid as well as soluble in ammonia. Okay, what you call this? In case of polarizing microscopy, your uric acid crystals will polarize light while your cysteine crystals do not. Okay, they do not polarize light. Okay, your cysteine crystals do not polarize light. And yes, both again your cysteine and uric acid crystals are soluble in ammonia water. But again, your cysteine is soluble in dilute hydrochloric acid, while your uh, uric acid crystal is insoluble in dilute HCl. Mm. And yes, your cysteine crystals is an important crystal, okay, that is associated with the cystinuria. Okay, your cysteine crystal is associated with cystinuria and may be associated with cysteine calculi. Your cysteine crystal again, or yes, they are found in urine of individuals who inherit a metabolic disorder that prevents the reabsorption of cysteine by the renal tubules, causing cystinuria. Okay, again, in cystinuria, a there is what they call this it is a disease that prevents the reabsorption of cysteine by the renal tubules. And yes, your cystinuria tends to form renal calculi, particularly at an early age. Individuals with cystinuria, they tend to form renal calculi at an early age accordingly. Okay, and yes, associated with sulfur odor, and it will give a positive cyanide nitroprusside test. It will give a positive cyanide nitroprusside test. Note that the lipids present in the urine, they remain in droplet form. The lipids in the urine, they remain in droplet form. And your cholesterol crystals, they are rarely seen unless the specimens have been refrigerated. Okay, cholesterol crystals are rarely seen unless the specimens have been refrigerated because again, your lipids, they remain in the droplet form, and refrigeration will cause the what they call is formation of the characteristic crystal shape of your cholesterol crystals. Anyway, your cholesterol crystals, they have what they call this colorless rectangular plates with notch edges or staircase pattern. Okay, colorless rectangular plates with notch edges or staircase pattern. Okay, broken window panes. Okay, that is a cholesterol crystals. Okay, broken window panes, staircase pattern, uh, staircase pattern. Those are associated with cholesterol crystals. Okay, please note that cholesterol crystals are highly birefringent with polarized light. They are highly birefringent with polarized light accordingly. It resembles radiographic contrast media. Your cholesterol crystal resembles radiographic contrast media, but one simple thing for this one is you check, okay, you check the specific gravity. If radiographic contrast media, then there should be a very high specific gravity of at least 1.040. But then if it's not, then probably it's not uh, a but then if the specific gravity is not 1.040, then it is not a radiographic contrast media crystal. Okay? It is not a radiographic contrast media crystal accordingly. And yes, your cholesterol crystal is soluble in chloroform and ether. It is soluble in chloroform and ether accordingly. And yes, again, cholesterol crystals, they are highly birefringent with polarized light. They are highly birefringent with polarized light accordingly. And yes, as for the clinical significance, they are associated with disorders producing lipiduria, like nephrotic syndrome, and lipid necrosis. Okay, lipiduria in cases of nephrotic syndrome and lipid necrosis. And please note that cholesterol crystals are seen in conjunction with fatty casts and oval fat bodies. Your cholesterol crystals, they are seen together with fatty casts and oval fat bodies. Okay? As well as heavy proteinuria, of course, of your uric acid crystals. Okay, your uric acid crystals, staircase pattern, or staircase crystals, or broken window panes accordingly. Staircase notched edges, there are notched edges. Okay, and yes, they are your broken window pane crystal or your staircase pattern crystal. And then you have your leucine. Leucine, by the way, for your liver disease, you have three crystals that are seen. You have your leucine crystals, leucine, and bilirubin crystals. Okay, in case of liver disease, you have three crystals. You have tyrosine, leucine, and bilirubin crystals. Anyway, your leucine, they are dark yellow to brown in color. They are dark yellow to brown in color. Please note these are rare. Okay, these are rare crystals. Your leucine crystals. Okay, your leucine crystals, they are rare crystals and they are oily appearing spheres with radial concentric striations. They are oily appearing spheres with radial concentric striations accordingly. And yes, please note that they are soluble in both acids and alkaline. They are soluble in both acids and alkalis accordingly. And yes, please note that this one, your leucine crystals, okay, together with your tyrosine crystals, they may occur together. Your leucine and tyrosine crystals, they may occur together. And leucine may be precipitated with tyrosine crystals if alcohol is added to the urine. Okay, if alcohol is added to the urine, leucine may be precipitated with the tyrosine. And yes, okay, these leucine crystals, they are less frequently seen than tyrosine crystals. And when present, should be accompanied by tyrosine. I mean, your leucine, when present, should be accompanied by tyrosine crystals. Because again, okay, please note that it is less frequently seen than tyrosine crystals. Okay. As for the clinical significance, liver disease and aminoaciduria. Liver disease and aminoaciduria accordingly. your leucine crystals with radial concentric striations. Okay, radial concentric striations. Okay, that is for your leucine crystals. Again, leucine crystals is less common than your tyrosine crystals. And then you have your tyrosine. Your tyrosine crystals, they are seen in acidic urine and they form a fine silky needles that may be arranged in sheaves or clumps after refrigeration. Okay, they are colorless to yellow and they appear black as the microscope is focused. Okay, they appear black as the microscope is focused accordingly. And they are soluble in alkali and heat. They are soluble in alkali, in ammonia and potassium hydroxide, and they are uh, also soluble in dilute hydrochloric acid. They are also soluble in dilute hydrochloric acid, but they are not soluble in alcohol and ether. They are not soluble in alcohol and ether. Your tyrosine crystals, they are not soluble in alcohol. I mean, they are not soluble in alcohol and ether. Yes, and still, this is uncommon. Your tyrosine crystal is uncommon, and this is but then your what do you call this? Your leucine crystal is more uncommon. Okay, it is more uncommon. Your tyrosine crystal, it is less soluble than leucine and is often more precipitated. It is less soluble than leucine, and this one is often more precipitated. Okay, your tyrosine and leucine, they are occasionally seen in the urine of patients with severe liver disease. Okay, again, they are what do you call this? Your tyrosine and the leucine, they are occasionally seen in the urine of patients with severe liver disease. Okay, with severe liver. And yes, tyrosine and leucine, okay, or tyrosine is seen in conjunction with leucine crystals in samples with positive chemical test for bilirubin. Okay, they are tyrosine and leucine crystals are seen in in samples with positive chemical tests for bilirubin. Okay, this one can also be seen in a neutral urine also, can be seen in neutral urine. Okay, that is for your tyrosine. Bilirubin crystals. Okay, of course, from your bilirubin. Okay, and they are yellow or ruby red. Okay, they appear as clump needles or granules. They appear as clump needles or granules. And please note that a positive chemical test for bilirubin should be expected. Okay, if bilirubin crystals are seen. A positive chemical test for bilirubin is expected if bilirubin crystals are seen. Okay, and as for this one, in disorders that produce renal tubular damage like viral hepatitis, bilirubin crystals may be found incorporated in the cast matrix. Okay, bilirubin crystals may be incorporated in the cast matrix. As for the clinical significance, your bilirubin crystals are present in patients with hepatic disorders, producing large amounts of bilirubin in the urine, producing large amounts of bilirubin in the urine. And your bilirubin, it is soluble in acetic acid, in hydrochloric acid, as well as ether and chloroform and sodium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide. Have your sulfonamide crystals. Please note that these crystals, they may be seen in urine of acid pH and may take on various morphologies depending on the form of the drug involved. Okay, depending on the form of the drug involved. Accordingly, they are your sulfonamide crystals, they are yellow. And again, the form varies with drug. Okay, for your sulfamethoxazole or sulfadiazine, they have spheres. Sulfamethoxazole or sulfadiazine, they have spheres with striations or dense globules. For your acetyl sulfadiazine, We have sheaves of wheat with eccentric binding, making fan forms accordingly. Okay, again, they may have fan-shaped, yellow-brown sheaves of wheat with central bindings, striated sheaves with eccentric bindings, rosettes, arrowheads, petals, needles, and round forms with radial stations. Again, that depends on, okay, that depends on the form of drug involved accordingly. And they are occasionally colorless. They are occasionally colorless. Please note that the confirmatory testing is done using diazo reaction. Confirmatory testing is done using diazo reaction. Other tests that will confirm sulfonamides, you have HPLC and colorimetric methods. Okay. With of course, with the advent, no, with the advent of soluble sulfonamides, okay, please note with the advent of soluble sulfonamides, sulfa crystals are not frequently found in the urine anymore. Okay, with the advent of soluble sulfonamides, please note soluble na po ha, because an insoluble substance may precipitate, producing a crystal. But then, again, with the presence already of soluble sulfonamides, sulfa crystals are not frequently found in the urine anymore, especially when the urine is examined 37 degrees Celsius. Okay, 37 degrees Celsius will favor the dissolution of sulfonamides. Okay? But then please note, before the development of soluble again, before the development of soluble sulfonamides, your your sulfonamide crystals could be seen in the urine of patients on sulfonamide therapy who were inadequately hydrated. Okay, who are inadequately hydrated. Aside from that, tubular damage. Okay, okay, tubular damage could result if the sulfonamide has formed in the renal tubules or has formed within the nephron. Okay, and so but then again nowadays you have soluble sulfonamides naman na. You have soluble sulfonamides naman na. Okay, for lignin test, for sulfonamides, you have urine plus 25% HCl to give you a positive yellow to orange pure ampicillin crystal. This one is also seen in neutral urine. Okay, your ampicillin crystals, your ampicillin may crystallize in the urine under high doses. Okay, they may crystallize in urine under high doses. And yes, okay, they appear bundles after refrigeration. They appear bundles after refrigeration. And in acid pH, ampicillin crystal appear as long, fine, colorless, needle-like structures. Okay, and again, they may form sheaves or bundles in refrigeration. Of course, seen in overdose of penicillin drugs without adequate hydration, Dimethyl sulfate. Okay, they are colorless or gray to brown when aggregated. And yes, they are slender, feather-like crystals that aggregate to wing-like bundles. And yes, okay, yeah, seen in cases of antiretroviral therapy, high dose accordingly. Seen in cases of retroviral. Of your radiographic dye, please note that your urinary crystals form after radiographic examination using diatrizoate dyes. Okay, again, urinary crystals form after radiographic examination using diatrizoate dyes. And please note that your radiographic dye crystals may be found in urine of acid pH shortly after intravenous infusion of radiographic contrast media. And yes, in the urine, they appear as flat, clear, colorless, notched, rhombic plates, or longer, slender rectangles. Please note of this, they are longer somewhat. Okay, they are colorless and they resemble cholesterol crystals. Okay, they resemble cholesterol crystals. Okay, again, radiographic contrast media crystals, they appear similar to cholesterol crystals and are also birefringent. That is why differentiation is best made by comparison of the results of the urine analysis and patient history. Of course, as the patient, okay, and so na-MRI ka ba? Na-CT ka ba? Okay, or of course ask, okay, were you infused with a radiographic contrast media? Okay, then if yes, then the crystal that you saw is a radiographic contrast media dye. And yes, your cholesterol crystals should be accompanied by other lipid elements like uh, OFB and heavy proteinuria and heavy protein. Your radiographic dye is seen in, I mean, may be seen after retrograde cystograms yes, they can be seen after retrograde cystograms. And yes, correlated with a specific gravity of greater than 1.040. Okay, it is not pathologic naman. Graphic contrast media is iatrogenic. Anyway, your artifacts, you have your artifacts here. Please note your starch granule, that is the, what they call this, your starch granule. Please note, this is the most common contaminant of urine and body fluids. The most common contaminant of urine and body fluids, source of your starch granule from surgical gloves, source of your starch granule from surgical gloves or gloves utilized to handle the urine sample. Okay, and yes, okay, starch granule. Okay, cornstarch. If cornstarch is the powder used in powdered gloves, as such. Anyway, your starch granule, they resemble fat droplets when polarized, producing a maltese cross formation, But then your starch granule, they are somewhat larger. Yeah, they're somewhat larger, and accordingly, differentiation between starch and pathological elements can be made by considering other urine analysis results. Okay, like chemical tests for blood or protein and presence of OFB and fatty acids. Anyway, because your starch granule can be confused with red cells. They can be confused with red cells. They can be confused with red cells. Okay, and so yes, your starch granule, they are highly refractile spheres with dimpled center. They are highly refractile spheres with dimpled center, dimpled center. That is for your starch granule. And source, your gloves, your powdered gloves. Then you have your oil droplets. Your oil droplets, please note that they are highly refractile. Okay, both actually, your oil droplets and your air bubbles, they are highly refractile and they may resemble red cells in an inexperienced laboratory personnel. But then please note that both, again, your oil droplets and your uh, air bubbles, they come in different sizes. Hindi po pare-parehas ang sizes nila. May mas malalaki, may mas maliliit. Okay? And yes, they are highly refractile source of your oil droplets. Okay. From oil immersion, what else? Okay, lotions and creams and can be seen with fecal contamination. What else? Catheter lubricants. Okay, can be a source of oil droplet. Okay, this one is an oil droplet. Again, they come in different sizes. May mas malalaki, may mas maliit. Hindi po consistent ang shape nila. I mean, ang size nila. And then you have your air bubble. Air bubbles occur when the specimen is placed under a cover slip. Okay, when the specimen is placed under a cover slip. And the presence of these artifacts, the presence of your air bubbles, should be considered in the context of other urine analysis results if you are unaware, if you do not really know. Okay, and so they are highly refractile and it resembles red cells. But then again, they come in different sizes. May mas malalaki, may mas maliliit na air bubble. Hindi po pare-parehas ang size ng air bubbles. And then you have your pollen grains. Your pollen grains, they are seasonal. Okay, and so seasonal contaminants. They are seasonal contaminants. Like many artifacts, the large size of these pollen grains may cause them to be out of focus with true sediment constituents. They may mask. Anyway, your pollen grains, they are spheres with concentric circles with a cell wall and a concentric circle accordingly. Okay, so that is a grain pollen. Okay, and they are seasonal contaminants during this season of pollen, of course. Okay, and then you have your hair and fibers. Your hair and fibers, they are longer and more refractile than your cast. Okay, they resemble cast or they can be mistaken as cast, but they are longer and more refractile. Sources of your hair and fibers, of course, you have your cotton, your hair, your wood fibers from applicator sticks, synthetic fibers from diapers, as such. Okay, they are sources of your hair and fibers. Please note that again, they resemble cast, but they are much longer. Your hair fibers are much longer and more refractive than your casts. Okay, and yes, they often polarize light, whereas your cast, they do not polarize light. They do not polarize light. And then you have your fecal contamination. Your fecal contamination, okay, this is caused by improper collection, of course. Okay, and so specimens that are collected improperly or rarely in the presence of a fistula between the intestinal and the urinary tracts may produce fecal contamination. Okay, artifacts. Okay, fecal artifacts may appear as plant and meat fibers or as brown amorphous material in variety of shapes and sizes for your fecal contamination. Okay, and somewhat nangangamoy naman. Okay, if there is a smell, if fecal contaminate, if there is a fecal contamination. Okay, again, they are brown or meat fibers or brown amorphous. Anyway, that ends your microscopic analysis of urine. That ends your our discussion on crystals present in the urine sediment. Okay, thank you so much. This has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, love often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. And as you move forward, may you always choose curiosity over fear, kindness over convenience, and growth over comfort. And yes, you celebrate your small victories, you honor your quiet moments, and trust that every step, no matter how uncertain, shapes the story you are meant to tell. The world is wide, your time is precious, and your journey is uniquely yours. So go make it extraordinary. Thank you. Thank you so much, and see you around.